so spread out over those 5 days, they were completely different waters. So
you know the strange thing about sharks, everything you see in movies and so forth, you see I don't remember ever seeing a fin when I was out there.
You did? What were you?
Most of them came from the bottom. I never did see them. I think there was a type, hammerheads and all kinds of different ones. But they came from underneath us before they did any other way.
I'll go on with that.
Because I stayed once at the outer end.
next question? Yes, sir.
Where were you located at on the ship when you actually had to abandon the ship, and how, I assume that jumping over, I suppose,
On that picture they had a while ago, it shows you a 40mm gun has 4 barrels on it, that's a 40mm mount. On the top of that, below that is a radar room. And that's the boat deck. That's probably about 3/4 of the way back from the bow. And I was there in that radio shack. We had started trying to learn something about radar. At the time, it was very primitive. With a line with a little pip in it, and if we got a bogey, we had to keep him in that pit. And nobody even trained us at that time on it. And we didn't know much about it. Well, anyhow, I was in there when we got hit. So I'd gone on duty, so I was topside. And I come out of there, and somebody cut the life jackets loose, and they fell on my feet. I gave one to the guy with me, some to the other guy, and I put on a cape life jacket. And they tell you to go over the high side. When I looked up at it, it was hanging all over the lifeline, trying to go over. When you jump over the high side, you jump right beside the ship because it's coming up so bad. So I'm leaning against an ammunition elevator, and the water's at my feet, so I just turned around and started swimming away.
How about you?
I wanted to get away from the suction.
Let's hear your story about where were you?
Well, I was sleeping topside, and if you can picture the ship that we showed here a while ago, I was sleeping right underneath the port side barrel of the #1 turret.
That's on the mouth.
But stupid me, I did not realize when I laid down there that night that I was laying right beside the hatch that they used to put munitions down into the hold. Well, when the torpedoes hit, it not only woke me up, it threw me up into the air maybe 20 feet. And as I came down, I seen a column of smoke flame come up out of that hatch. And of course the hatch was gone. And I thank God that it was gone, because had it held, I'd been eating mincemeat right there. Because they would have blown that whole deck apart. But anyhow, as I came down, there was a wave of seawater came across the front of the ship, soaking me to no end. And if you've ever been walking around with wet clothes on, it's very uncomfortable. So, not hearing any orders coming over the PA system, I thought, well, they'll tell me pretty soon what I'm supposed to do. So I'm going down and change from the dry clothes.
I was dry clothes and don't be
Nevertheless,
well, you did fine.
I was on the ship in dry clothes.
I went off the clothes.
Anyhow, that's where I was at. Rest is history.
Any other questions?
First of all, I wanted to say that it's an honor to be in your presence, and I'm thankful that my son has got the opportunity to meet you. And I would like to know if either one of you ever heard, or did Captain McVeigh speak to you after the accident, occurred, if you had a chance to talk to him.
No, he was too busy talking to the admiral.
Even at our reunion, he didn't speak much. He pretty much, I don't know how to describe him. He was awful good to us, but he didn't carry on a big conversation with us. He was at the speaker's table and that was it. You know, when you think about it, the captain felt a little bit sheepish, you might want to say, if that's a word, because he always felt that some of it was his own fault. What he can't say is, and we never said he was, but I can imagine in his mind, he wasn't very proud of losing his ship.
He was a very broken man.
Yeah, it's something the captain don't like. You know, they always talk about the captain just threw it out with the ship. Well, he didn't. I mean, this happened, he got off of it.
And he went down to the sea.
Yeah, that's what happened. And you never could blame something like that. We never did it at all. It had nothing to do with it. We're a little bit, you know, the more I read some of these books, you know what I was upset with, was the Navy. Of course, there's one thing you people gotta understand about the service. Navy, Army, Marines, I don't care what you name, they make mistakes. And they're pretty good at it once in a while. Yeah, they can make
And a lot of them in this case.
So, yes,
Did you guys ever get an official apology from the Navy for
Are
losing
you
you guys?
kidding?
we did get a lot of wars and things like that. We did have our picture taken recently with name English. Navy,
Secretary of the Navy.
Secretary of the Navy. And we met some of them dignitaries, they've been pretty good to us. But they never really, what you say, apologized.
They never admitted they screwed up.
What, no?
You're kidding.
That ain't the way it works. Well, if they could have pushed it down to second, second class, they would have done it.
I don't even do that when I make a mistake.
Sir, did you have a question?
Yeah, when you were rescued, how did they were you picked up by the ship? Did you guys get on the plane and wait for the ship, or how did
People
they?
got on the Bassett.
Okay, and how did they get you from the sea surface up into the
Very
back?
careful.
Did you ever see the metal baskets they got the shape of a body? They had to use them because we couldn't climb the rope ladder.
So were you taken onto an LCVP like Peter Wren had the little boats out there, or were you just taken over to the side of the ship and lifted up?
Well, first we got to the small craft.
Okay, and then you were taken over to the ship.
Yeah, that's the way it works.
Okay.
Now here's another thing. And I know you don't mention this, but you could. And it's normal. These crafts come out to approach us in the water, and they have a machine gunner pointing the gun at us. They wasn't sure. We had to identify ourselves, and we did a pretty good job of identifying.
Yeah, certainly.
When you first got onto the Bassett, and what did they do? You know, what was the procedure that they went through? Did
Well,
they do?
first they would give us some liquid that brought very first little orange juice, then some water, live with it. It just didn't want you to drink a whole lot at a time. And they kind of took care of us real good. And that's the whole crew was working for us. Oh, they've done great for us.
Yeah.
Just treat us like babies. Took me down to shower, we had to sit on the deck because we were so weak. They cleaned all the oil out of our hair, the ears, and everything else. It was neat. They were a good crew, heck of a crew.
Want a pillow?
Next question?
Once you were on the Bassett, where did they take you to next?
Both of us, we went to the Philippines, didn't we? You were in the Philippines?
I went to a shower.
Well, I told you, we didn't. You know, we was in a hospital in the Philippines, and I swear to God, the Philippines ain't nothing but a big jungle. With nothing around us but the hospital. Of course, for one thing, we didn't have any clothes on.
They were taken to different places. They were taken to Laos, Samar, Manila, Guam, they were taken to different places, and then they were all gathered up to be transported home weeks later along.
We all got ended up in Guam together.
Right, yeah, from Guam, they were taken on board the USS Indianapolis, taken back to San Diego.
I was talking about.
Who's yelling back there? Oh, yes.
Are there any stories, like the right spot at the right time? Have you heard any stories of guys that probably should have been down below, but for some reason they're having a smoke or something weird like that?
Oh, like when the ship went down? Are you asking me?
Have you heard any stories, from survivors?
Yeah, there's different stories of, I was gonna be up front, but I wasn't, or I wasn't quite to
Well,
my.
if you weren't on duty, you're allowed to go anywhere on the ship
Right.
you wanted to.
Or there was one young man who was due to be on duty right up front of that bow, and he said I was late. And so the man who wasn't released yet ended up dying, but he didn't. So there were a few of those. The ones that are really hard are, the ones who were fighting to get up from below decks, and the horrible things that they there, because a lot of the passageways would clog with guys just scrambling to get up, as the ship was twisting and turning. And the smoke was coming and the fires and explosions. Men were coming from the forward part of the ship with just strips of skin hanging off their arms and flash burned faces and melted, and just a horrific
That's where
condition.
most of the fire was all forward.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And
And one other thing, you talk about the nightmares. A few years ago, I was doing one of these in Virginia with Felton Alden, the one who made that drive to go talk to Giles McCoy, which kind of spurred the readings. The sweet little Felton, it was his first time to do one of these, just like this morning was for these guys. And it was the night before, and we're sitting at the hotel lobby, and I had 2 other survivors with them, and I said, I need to kind of get your story straight, so tomorrow, know what I'm talking about. Sam, did you have a life jacket? He said, yes, I did. So I'm writing down what he's telling me. Paul, did you have a life jacket? No, I ended up in a raft, blah, 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 and I'm writing down his song. And I said, Felton, did you have a life jacket? And I'm writing. He's not answering. I said, Felton, did you have a life jacket? And I looked up, and his eyes were just pouring. And his lip was just quivering. I went, oh my gosh, what have I done? I obviously touched a nerve. So I jumped off my chair and I went and I grabbed his hand and I said, sweet Felton, tomorrow this program's pretty graphic. I don't spare a lot when it comes to what happened to you guys day by day in the water. I said, if this is too much, I'll have you escort it out. If you don't want to come up on the stage, you don't have to. You don't have to talk. Well, the next day we did the program in front of 600 people, and he stayed through the whole thing. He came up on the stage, he answered one question, and it was a young man who said, what would you tell us today? What'd you learn? And the only thing he could choke out, which I've heard several other survivors say, is never, ever give up. And at that point, crying, as did the rest of the audience. Later on that night, anyway, as I was talking to him beforehand, just saying, if it's too much, you can leave. He goes, Kim, I have to do this. I have to do this. I've never talked about it. My shipmates say that the reason that they're able to get past it is because they talk. He goes, I don't even sleep in the same bed with my wife because I still thrash at night with them around 60 years later. So we did it. He did great. We were out at dinner with the mayor and the school officials, and I went over to his table and I said, Felton, thank you so much for doing such a great job. And he goes, we got to do this again. So I'll be danged if we were in Sunbury, North Carolina the next summer, and he packed a 900-seat auditorium full of locals, because this is where he grew up. He never said a word. And they all wanted to hear the local boy, talk about what he did on the ship. And, his kids were just sobbing in the audience because they'd never heard their dad talk about it. And I'll tell you what, he's my favorite one. Oh, I'm sorry. He's my crybaby. Everything.
I do too.
I know you do. Yeah, he's our little tender heart. So
I love sharks.
yeah, you get touched when we get to shark territory. But yeah, a lot of them still do have my
I want you to see the movies, y'all. Seen it? Don't want to see it.
Well, thank you for just putting up with my 4 minutes.
I worked out, did you know
I
that?
did, I thought you had to go to the bathroom.
I did. But I just don't like it. I was in a wide convention and I walked in the Walkie Beach up to my waist and I said, that's it, it's still salty. I got it.
You want to hear
one thing about it, we try to get a little humor in it because it was a tragical thing. But you gotta remember one thing, we are under the USS Indianapolis. Can you imagine the survivors of every engagement in the Second World War? There's thousands and thousands of what you call survivors from the battles all over the country. And so we're proud to represent anybody like that, we really are.
Go ahead, sir.
You spent a lot of time tonight, and you sound like you do it a lot of different places. What got you interested in this particular
I
program?
read the book In Harm's Way by Doug Stanley. Found out that I lived next to two of the survivors, Brian Blanthorne and Woody James, who both since passed away. We started doing it in my town there. It just got bigger and bigger, and then the survivors invited me out to their reunion, and from there, their family members wanted it in their town, and luckily I worked for the airlines.
Down there, make sure.
What's that?
That's coming to Florida.
Down to your house?
Well, not necessarily my house, but they bring it.
Yes, we're coming to Florida.
Okay.
So that's how I got involved. Just,
Thank you.
you know, I read the book and I was just so struck by, you know, at the time I thought, oh, you know, I'm having some hard times. And then I read the book and I went, I have no hard times. My life is fine. So it really puts perspective. And that's why we talk to the kids, because, you know, when you think you got it rough, this is rough.
Now, I know you don't work for the Navy, but
I don't work for the Navy.
you travel around.
Yeah.
I can't name all the names, maybe you know some of them. In the city of Indianapolis, business, former Navy men, kind of people, really helped us to get our reunion organized and going, including with a lot of our people in our organization that worked at it hard. What's his name, was Dennis now. Anyhow, it was quite a feat, and we come to where we got a beautiful memorial down there.
Have you guys been to the monument on the canal? Have you
On the
seen it?
canal, yeah.
It's right down the road, guys. It's stunning. It's beautiful.
It's on Senate Ward, Walnut, you can't miss it, pretty much downtown Indianapolis. And it's a beautiful thing to see.
Now, I
But
got,
it took a lot of work to get that done, and I'm proud of all the people involved in it.
Go ahead, Clarence.
I got a question for you. Is Tippy Canoe Dance Floor still there? Really?
It's still open?
Yes.
You know, last night we were out to dinner with Clarence, as we went and picked him up from the airport before Wayne, and we stopped off and got something to eat. And boy, they had two of the cute waitresses there. And I made mention,
I
I said,
hadn't noticed.
yeah. And I said something, I go, man, I said, the girls around here are pretty. And he goes, why do you think I spend so much time tipping?
So what I did,
My husband and I appointed.
I spent a lot of time at Tippy.
Any other questions for anybody?
Fort Nelson, Indiana, are they from, are you gentlemen from?
Where are you from?
I'm from Fort Wayne originally, but now I live in Angola and Crooked Lake. You have any idea what that's at?
Yeah.
Crooked Lake, Lake James, Jefferson, I'm right in that group,
Okay.
right there. I love it up there. I'm down here in Ohio, and I'm down here in Michigan.
And you're down there here.
By the way, I work construction as an industrial insulator. I've done a lot of work in this city, on a lot of your schools and so forth. Which is all I did was all the heating and air conditioning and hot cold water, freon lines, stuff like that, boilers. I didn't do the walls, but I did stuff. So I went out to a lot of public buildings around here over the time.
Where are you from, Clarence? Where are you from?
Originally born and raised in Elkhart County, North. But 12 years ago, my brother and my sister both had lived in Florida for a couple of years, and they invited me down. And that was a mistake. I went. My wife and I went down there, we looked around. I liked the climate at that time. Since then, the climate has But nevertheless, we liked it down there. And 2 years after we bought a place down there, we moved down there. We didn't like the idea of moving back and forth, spring and fall. It just, well, let's put it this way. By moving back and forth like that, my wife couldn't find anything in it. This way, we got it in one place, and she knows where to go to get it.
Anything else from anybody?
Does either one of them?
Did either of you know Forrest? Gaither?
Yes, I believe I did. He was just shortly on board. He had went to school and he come out second class. What do they call it? Fire controlman. But anyway, I worked with him on the mount. See, the 40-meter mounts are hydraulic and electronic. And I had to go to school, but I helped him as far as the mechanical part, put it together and take it apart and so on. I think I worked with him some, but he didn't, I don't remember seeing the water or anything. I don't know what happened.
Well, I'll tell you what. I was lucky enough to wind up in the water. Dear friend of mine last winter on Liberty's Bid. I had met his family a couple of times. And I was fortunate enough to wind up in the water with him. And I'll tell you, if you're ever in a disaster of this nature, the best thing to do is get a hold of somebody you're familiar with and talk to them back and forth. Reminisce about what you've done in the past, what you plan to do in the future. Talk to them about anything but the situation you're in. Get your mind off of it. That's how I survived it. He thinks I saved his life, but I don't believe it.
He saved yours too.
Yeah. The only reason he can hold that to be true is when that plane came over and started dropping things. He thought that it dropped an airplane engine. I saw an airplane engine fall from that plane. And he'd go swim out there and get him to a plane together, by God. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how many times I swam out and pulled that guy back.
You saved his life, Claire.
Well, he saved mine because he kept me busy.
I tell you what, it's a good place to live in Leyte in case you want to. You don't drink no water, you don't eat nothing for 4 or 5 days, you'll like, I lost 28 pounds. And I couldn't afford to use water. It's dehydration.
Aren't these guys kind of like Laurel and Hardy kind of thing?
Guess what, when we got in the hospital,
Hey, Laurel. You got that?
you know what they fed us pretty much? Liver.
Oh.
As a kid, I didn't like it. Nowadays, I kind of like it.
I'm still eating later.
Yeah, heck yeah. I had a fellow next to me in the hospital, Kelmer Green from Oklahoma City. No, he was a good friend of mine. I'll tell about him later on. But anyway, while I was in the hospital, he couldn't take his pills. But I took his pills for him.
Let's take mine tonight.
Huh?
Let's take mine tonight.
I'm out of that.
How are we doing on time, huh?
Well, we've got.
We got all night?
We got all night,
Is
yeah.
this a slumber party?
I do have.
You know, I bet you this fellow named Dream, he come home in Oklahoma City, and kind of Bobby could end up being a truck driver. I'd say he was on my years, killed him now. You mean to tell me what you then? Come on, because you're on the highway.
Want to ask him?
The books that you've read about the USS Indianapolis, is there one that sticks out as the best?
One Doug Stanton wrote, he researched.
The one, yeah, the one after the right to know law. affected
In harm's way.
in harm's
My
way.
Doug said, I mean, far and away, that is the one book that every survivor in every presentation, because we get asked that at everyone.
The only
That is
thing
the one
is,
they
when
all
we
say.
read it, we get mad.
Yeah, he explained on a very explainable, so you'll understand what happened to them in the water. Why on that third day they did, you know, because before that, they felt so guilty and they didn't know what happened. He explained on a biological level what happened. And then he also had a lot of documents, you know, at that time that were declassified that told, you know, why they were out there for so long and nobody came back. Real quickly, one thing that I omit from the presentation because of time is that the SOS, the radio number 2, Jack Miner and some of his coworkers actually did jerry-rig a little bit of the equipment back to working condition and sent out an SOS and watched the little needle jump. And later on, it was found out years later that it was received in 3 different places. So people did know they were out there. And what happened on the first one, in the first base, was the little subordinate goes into the base commander's hut, it was the middle of the night, and he said, the commander was wrong, and he was passed out. And he woke up, we're getting this SOS, it says the Indianapolis, the coordinates. He said, you know, half brains, he says, we'll let you know if you get a confirmation. He goes back to sleep. Well, they had sunk so quickly, there was going to be no confirmation.
Then it was the enemy sometimes.
Right, the second one thought that folks by the Japanese to lure them out into the ocean, which was common practice. The third one is the one that makes me really mad. The base commander of that one was off on a neighboring island playing bridge. So his second in command, when he got the SOS, sent out some tugs out there. Well, when the base commander came back and found out that this guy had done this without his orders, he recalled them. They had already done 7 hours to hurt the guys. He recalled them and did nothing. Just dropped it. So,
This is what goes ahead and
oh, it started then? So, yeah, that tidbit that got declassified later. So Doug's book has everything put into it. And so that's why these men really, you know, that's why they like this book. I got a call from Doug, probably about 2 years ago, and he goes, when are you doing your next program? And I told him when it was, and I go, why, yeah. And he goes, no, I can't make it. He goes, but, you know, every time you do one of these, my book sales spike in that area. And I go, yes, I'm free. Yeah, a few times.
Well, next time he calls, ask him why he ain't answering my letter.
I'll ask him. I'll ask him. So, all right. Well, should we wrap it up and let you gentlemen go to bed? Or do
Yeah,
you wanna?
pretty much so,
All right.
yeah.
Can I ask the boys one thing? Explain to me what a fire patrolman second class was. Did he shoot the big guns?
No, not necessarily.
He's in training.
He was, well, see, he was on that ship for several years.
Sure he was.
Yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
When did he go on board the Indian?
I was gonna look at that letter.
Let me tell
You
you,
were quite for a year.
Oh, yes.
Where did you go to school? You had to look at,
Waterfall, Virginia, in Rhode Island, San Francisco. Yeah, he went to school like this.
right, that's why he was second class when he come on board.
Yeah.
But
he
I
was-
can't imagine being on board more than about 6 months to a year. How do you know it's 2
44,
years?
I think he went on there. March, I'll have to get the letter.
let me explain something to you.
Huh?
I was aboard ship for 14 months. I went aboard as a first class seaman in fire patrol. And I'd been aboard several months. And our chief petty officer came up to me and said, Hershberger, go down and take the test for fire patrol and get a rating. I ain't doing nothing now, sir. Why should I take the rating while I was sitting and go to work?
Listen, he was in the battle boat and I was.
Well, yeah, but that's not near the end.
The Marshall Islands,
Where's the marshal?
Gilbert,
Who's that?
Marshall Islands, Gilbert Island.
That's why the chain we was taking.
Yeah, he was.
We gotta find out when he was actually boarded on the.
You know, I'd like to know because I got another guy in mind that I work with. And he come on board, I went on in 43, and he didn't come on almost a year later.
I'll have to look at these
And the saying is, I worked with him on the mounts. I didn't work on, during the battle, I don't know what issues. The only thing I can think of, he probably not been a pointer or not a loader. The loaders are lower class, where usually you had a first loader, second loader, and then you had somebody just past the ammunition. And I doubt if he had although he could have been operating sites of the aviation, operating the sites for 5 minutes, see, that's what we did. We operated all sites of all the guns on the ship.
Well, one time he drove home and he was having trouble with his eyes, and he was looking through that, wasn't the end of the ship.
Oh, okay, now, he operates the Diamond. Did he say anything about that? Right, I'm gonna explain to you what this means. There was a guy from Detroit, see, that site. Only certain guys' eyes were good enough to do it.
Yeah.
What they do, they look into a prism, and there's a diamond. Say we're gonna shoot at a machine gun nest or something on shore. Move that out till you think it's right over it, then you're on target. Now, that's called depth possession. Only certain guys can do that, and some, the guy from Detroit was able to do that. But a lot of them couldn't do that. But that's what they do, and that was the 525, 538. But I don't know, the big tower that was in the operate the 8 inch. Of course, there's another thing. We were pretty primitive.
Primitive.
Because we had 4 planes, spotter planes, we put them up on we'd shoot them off on a catapult, probably about 100 miles an hour. And they go over the target, and in their lap they have checkerboard. Can you imagine? This is our radar now. Anyway, we'd fire, his guns would fire 1 salvo, aim it. We shot over a mountain in a supply ship one time, Japanese supply. Anyway, the guy will tell them where they hit, They'll say, three ships down. And then we'd fire another one. And then he would fire 3 at one time. We sunk that ship, never seen it, over on the other side of the mountain. We played checkers to get it. You know, that's how I explain these kids, what some of them say. Like my grandparents, my grandkids, I should say, asked me why that helicopter didn't fix me up.
Well, if any of you want to come up and take pictures with them or talk to them one-on-one, you're welcome to do that. And we'll wrap this up. And a little word of warning. Earlier today when we were at the school, we were in the library taking pictures, and Dave Hofford had them all lined up, you know, him and the other World War II veterans, and I was back there and cheese, Clarence, crackers, Congo sex. Sorry. Thank you very much.
Saturday morning, 9:30. Saturday morning, 9:30. This is my husband. Still
I've seen pictures of it. These are extra. You're a lot lately. The girl
Motion